In this series, I just want to talk about something very briefly. People who have interest in building homes, building houses, okay? If you want to build a house, there are things you need to consider. There are things you need to, pay attention to because they're very important, okay? So I'm going to give you all the steps of what you need. Number one is you have to get a land. And it's not just about getting that land. After getting that land has to be surveyed, okay? So you need a surveyor to survey that land for you. That land has to be registered, the state government of that very state, wherever your land is, okay? That land needs to be registered with the lands and housing of that very state. Okay, it is very important that after getting your land, you have to survey it. It doesn't matter whether that land is in the village or that land is in whatever area. It doesn't also matter if the land was an inherited land, a land you got to inherit, and it is important that you have to survey it. Anything can happen tomorrow. Okay, government can come tomorrow to lay claims on those land, and if you have those lands surveyed and registered under the state government, whatever ministry is in charge of it, you stand a chance of, if that case is taken to court, you stand a chance of winning. If there is any need for compensation, you are due for full compensation. That is very, very important. Okay. So after surveying your land, the next thing you're going to do if you want to build is you contact an architect. Okay, you can contact an architect. You can also contact a civil engineer. Okay, but the more professional person for you to call at that very point is an architect. Okay, so you contact an architect, and you tell an architect this is what you need. For your land. This is the kind of building you need. This is what you need for your structure. And then if it is a bungalow, you're building a bungalow, okay, you may not need to contact a structural engineer because definitely you don't need anything structural in that, okay. So the only person you may need to contact is a mechanical engineer who is going to help you with the plumbing design, okay, the plumbing services of that building, okay. And another person you also need to contact is the electrical engineer because definitely that house is going to be wired. All right, so you need an electrical engineer that will develop a drawing for you that is going to show you the entire electrical arrangement of that apartment. It is very important. In most cases, architect may collect the entire thing and find the different professionals to work it out. So you may not need to find electrical and mechanical later, but this is very important if you're building a bungalow for that building. To scale through the approval process with whatever state government you're dealing with, you must have the architectural drawings. If it's a bungalow, you must have a mechanical drawing and you must have the electrical drawings. These are very, very important. Okay. Then let's say you're building a multi-story structure. Maybe let's say a building that is carrying a suspended floor. In such situation, you also need a structural engineer to do a structural design for you. Okay. The structural design will determine the type of foundation you're going to have, and it's not just going to determine the type of foundation you're going to have. It's also going to advise you. The structural engineer will advise you, to do a geotechnical survey of that land, especially if it's in a place where there's been a reoccurrence of collapses. Okay, it will advise you. Okay, and also depending on the number of floors, it will definitely advise you to do a geotechnical survey of the soil. Okay, soil test, because these parameters will help him to do the design for the structure. Okay, so that is very important. So when you're building a structure that has a suspended floor, you know the structural engineer. The structural engineer is going to develop structural drawings for you, because that is what will ascertain the integrity of that building. You understand? The structural engineer is going to determine the positions of your column, the arrangement of your beam, the arrangement of your floors, the type of foundation. It's also going to determine the volume of concrete. It will get it from there, and the quantity. In fact, the entire structural quantity can be generated by the structural engineer. So when you are bringing in the quantity surveyor to help you quantify, to make it more easier for the quantity surveyor. Okay, so it is very, very important. So don't forget, if you're building a multi-story building, you're building a suspended floor, you need an architect, you need a structural engineer, you need a mechanical engineer, you need an electrical engineer. Okay, and in a situation where you don't want to fall into troubles in the course of construction, maybe running out of cash, you need a quantity surveyor. Okay, who will quantify all the items and give you rates, and at the end of the day, you know how much your building is going to cost. Okay, so this is very important. Always have this at the back of your mind. In fact, not back, put it in front of your mind, because most clients don't know that these are all the processes they need to go. You just call maybe an engineer or an architect. In most cases, an engineer a particular engineer can pick the job, then spread it to the other professions. Same thing with the architect. Okay, so because sometimes you see, a client can call you and say, I need a drawing, and you at the same time you're advising him or her that you will definitely need to reproduce other drawings, and he will now tell you, is it not part of what we discussed? You should produce everything. It's not done that way. Okay, all of these drawings have to be prepared, because without preparing these drawings, that drawing cannot pass through approval purposes. Okay, so very, very important. So I just said let me make this video for people to understand that these are the basic things you need. that are very, very important when you're embarking on a building project. Thank you very much.